if we all stand together.
All right, so the first thing we here to talk about are the summary of regulations, and I'll take a second and look at this. The deadline for this was Tuesday of this week. So the expectation is that starting on Tuesday, that you were fully registered in the state's New Jersey DEP online new resource that owners and operators had to go in, locate their property. There'll be another report or another milestone in this effort in April. You see that here. The data collection was supposed to have begun on October 1st. I'm going to share a slide with you with the details. It's very important that you familiarize yourself with the specifics of the obligation. The rule technically went into effect June 21st, but there was a 90-day period after the rule went into effect before the responsibilities to start collecting data were effective. So that happened on September 19th. And then the documentation responsibilities are specific in the regulation. The regulation is known as 7:27. That's the name of the regulation. And we'll share more of those details as we go. Now, if you're wondering who's affected, the department very specifically put wording in there, but I'm going to tell you that you're going to have to pay attention to the definition. So for instance, your definition of refrigeration and the state of New Jersey's definition and the federal government's definition will likely all be different. Refrigeration in the state of New Jersey is not something that cools food. There is a specific definition for it. It's down at the bottom or down at one of my last slides. We'll share that as well. It's important to note that not only do you have to register refrigeration systems, but chillers. And when the state differentiates the definitions here, they're really referring to anything that has piping that may be external to the framework of the unit. All right, so you're basically looking at systems 50 pounds and over. I have some examples towards the end of questions that I've been asked over the last few weeks that I included that will give more clarity to what 50 pounds and over means. And also want to point out that, as I mentioned before, there is another regulation out there, and that is the boiler and refrigeration chiller registration process. And this is a second responsibility. They are not the same. The boiler registration process that all HVACR professionals have been dealing with for 2 decades now is a safety program. This is a greenhouse gas reporting program. And the key here is the deadline for registering sites was earlier in the week. So it's very important that the registration has taken place by now. If it hasn't, I'd suggest you just reach out and we'll help you make the connection. But reach out to the state of New Jersey, tell them that you're behind and you're in the process of catching up. Only if you think it's going to take you more than another 30 days to get signed up. All right, moving on. So 50 pounds and larger of any appliance that has a high GWP refrigerant. And right now, your mind should be going to, what is a high GWP refrigerant? Well, the state defines that for us. The GWP value over 150 is a high GWP refrigerant. I took some examples here, some common refrigerants, 410, 407C, and 404A. On the left-hand side, you'll see the AR4 100-year factors for the global warming potential for these materials. On the right-hand side, you'll see the AR5 factors. But it's very important. Very few systems have less than 150 GWP. So ammonia systems don't apply here. CO2 systems don't apply here. Those are both below 150. But as you can see from these numbers, both the AR4 and AR5 factors. The 100-year factors are well over the 150 trigger. And technically, it does make more sense to use the 20-year factor. It's just not adopted at all levels the same way. You know, some basics. Registration fee is $400. No, they are not prorating it. And this is based on a 5-year cycle. So it's $400 for 5 years, basically $80 a year. But the good news is it's all payable up front. What was due on November 1st? You had to provide the state with a very simple list of locations. So November 1st, the requirement was register locations. January 1st, you have to provide model or description of each appliance, equipment model year, a serial number. All right, the last one is they want to know the type of refrigerant, and there's one more. I don't know how I missed that, but one additional item, which is the weight. They need to know the weight. Since the next slide talks about what's required to report on that date, this is a whole other complicated filing responsibility. Many companies that are particularly in the HVAC space have not had to capture records at detail. So this is a new behavior. So just getting the asset registries, which are here, in place so that you can file this is critical. So you have to report your purchases, gas that's charged into systems, any gas that's recovered, any gas that's stored on site, and any gas that was sent to reclaim. But this is all based around the Global Warming Response Act. So what they're trying to do is get a reliable inventory from the marketplace that they, that their jurisdiction, so that they can report on that as part of their greenhouse gas emissions, so they can accurately drive towards a reduction. And they're not alone, right? Businesses are doing this everywhere. State governments are doing it. The federal government's trying to do it. From the U.S. government's perspective, historically, they had always targeted a 1% emission factor for refrigerants in the United States. But starting this year, they tripled that to 3% with an anticipated 6% value next year. So it's really important to be aware of the fact that what was largely an underreported emission factor is now coming onto more and more people's radar. So there'll be a lot more alignment between businesses and state governments for reporting. This is often referred to as the 80 by 50 rule. In case you were wondering, this is the definition of refrigeration plant. It's very generic. Anything that does heat transfer, that has piping, that contains refrigerant. So I often hear this one get misunderstood the most, because refrigeration at the federal level is anything that cools food. A little Q&A with the state and some questions from people that we work with. These are your answers right here. So, do you have to register a computer room appliance if it's a package unit? The answer is no. Data center, chilling the room for data only, must be registered. MRIs, yes. I already referenced cadaver rooms. Food prep area, if it has piping, and this is an exact statement since California requires it to be listed as a refrigeration unit, therefore New Jersey would also. There will be a lot of these discussions in the last 11 years that we've been working in California, creating clarity about the way that we've historically worked and the way the state or regulators or authorities perceive that work has led to hundreds of discussions and exchanges of information about what definitions are. And they're not always what you would assume they're going to be. So the registration process touches a lot more businesses than you would have thought. But also at the same time, I have a feeling that the state may have underestimated the number of appliances at each site. Many of our clients have 20 to 50 appliances that trigger the responsibility to file. And since it's all manual, it's quite a chore to get all this in. Now, if you only have one or two, it's not going to really be that big a deal. But if you have more than that, it does take time.
If we all stand